Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me in another of my wonderful interviews. Have you ever thought of appearing on the news and saying, the stuff that you believe in, the stuff that you believe is true, and telling the rest of the world? Well, every now and again that opportunity does come to people. You can get out of the internet and you can get onto mainstream media where no one's watching. No one of any sense is watching, but you can get that message across. But do you trust the broadcasters to put over your message the way you would like it to be done? Or are you slightly skeptical that they may turn it around to suit their needs? Well, a man who has done that recently is one of our favourite guests, of course, Sovereign Pete. And he was on Sky Television. He's here to tell us what it was like and what he thinks of the result. Sovereign Pete, welcome to the show. Nice to have you back.
Thank you very much. Nice to be back, Richard.
It's nice to have you. So, two baldies on the screen.
Yep.
I saw this piece that went out, and of course, the first thing that struck me was the name, Sovereign Citizens.
Yeah.
You're going, what? What are you talking about? Citizens? Sovereign? So anyway, it's not for me to comment on it. It's more you said, could I come on and tell you how it came about and what you think of the piece and whether it's done you any favours or not? Because on the face of it, some people might say, hasn't done you any favours at all. But I don't know. All publicity isn't necessarily bad publicity.
Very true. So, yeah.
What did you... So tell us, how did it come about? Whose idea was it to... plonk you on Sky? Because didn't Sky go to one of the Freedom Festivals fairly recently and did a piece which sort of didn't do too much of a bad job? It was sort of wishy-washy like these things are.
It was, that's right. I was speaking at a Freedom Festival and Dolores Cahill was there as well. And Sky News turned up and they did a little bit of a piece. And I'm sure everyone's seen the clip with the journalist, which was his name's Tom, and Dolores, going one-to-one sort of thing. So, yeah, he turned up. He did sort of. I saw the article. It was so. It was okay, whatever. But anyway, after that, Tom got in contact with the Sovereign Project. He, contacted us through the website and just asked if he could speak to some of the fraternity members and what it was like and what he sounded very genuine. It was like he was really truly interested in knowing what all this was about. It's like didn't quite understand it. So we accepted the offer. So he says, yeah, sure, not a problem. We'll chat to you. So they hired a hotel for the day and put the coffees on. They were very nice, very professional. Both Tom and his cameraman crew, they set everything up. We spoke off camera very, very well. And I just want to say that I hold nothing against Tom at all. I think he is a genuinely good person. I just think he might be suffering from brainwashing. So one of the things I did notice is when I was talking to him in the interview, you could see that he was puzzled. So he wasn't being like he wasn't trying to cause a conflict. He wasn't trying to be aggressive. I can always judge a character. So I can go into a room and I can normally tell the ones that are completely psychotic. You want nothing to do with them. They're complete, pure evil. And I did not get that vibe from Tom. So we agreed to do it. And the result is now there for everyone to see.
And we'll put the link in the description if you haven't seen it, the YouTube clip of the actual event. And let me just say, if I don't mind butting in as a viewer of it, and having seen the other one as well, it does sound like Tom, the reporter there, is curious.
Yeah.
And I mean, it took me a while to get my head around what you're undoing, for me, 60 years of brainwashing of what the system tells you we are. And so it is quite a leap of faith to go, okay, let me just understand that and unpack it. And if you're curious, it may be that Tom and other people in that situation would be going, I don't quite fully understand this yet. And if they keep an open mind, they might start to realize the fraud and the scam and the corruption that is out there and perhaps have a different take on it. But so I agree. He came over very professional, and he put over an opinion. Of course, I don't know how much control he has of the edit and everything else, and what the Sky people there the news
Well,
editor would have had?
he did say to us that he was not under any instructions by his bosses. This is something he wanted to do. It was his decision to do it. This is one of the reasons we accepted the
Right.
invitation. We did have a little conversation where we asked this, if you don't like mainstream media, why did you accept the offer from Sky News? And I says, well, I didn't. I accepted your offer, Tom, because I like you. So, made it personal. So he says to the team, the fraternity, he said that he wasn't under any instructions. He was going to do this piece, then he was going to submit it to his bosses, and his bosses were then going to say yes or no to broadcast it. So I take him at his word. We have actually videoed the entire, I think it's about 2 hours we had with Sky that on when we were there chatting with Sky. We have recorded it. We did promise to Tom that we would not release any detail of that full footage until after he'd uploaded, obviously, his article. So, and we will be releasing that quite soon.
And just as a matter of interest, then, how different? I mean, the piece is about 4 or 5 minutes, isn't it? It's a very short piece,
Yes,
of course, and you're covering, 180-degree turn on what we all think is true in 4 or 5 minutes, which is an impossibility.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that viewers would have to take on board to sort of kind of go, what is this about? So from that point of view, it's a difficult challenge in that little time. But I'm quite curious then, how much, because having worked in television myself in very small capacity and with a children's television program, knowing how editing works and being a viewer of television in the past before I decided to throw my television off a multi-story car park. I didn't literally do that, but, effectively said, that's it, I've had enough because it just is full of rubbish. And I don't want to pay for that rubbish either, thanks very much. I know how it's very easy to manipulate. And being an editor, a video editor and doing stuff, you know how you frame things, how you can cut things, you can put things together and tell a different story than the one that's being filmed. So you've got the 2-hour version. How different is the final edit from the truth of what you just filmed?
Yes, it's quite a lot different. I mean, we mentioned earlier about sovereign citizen, okay? And it's quite clear he used that term in the article. You can see it, sovereign citizen.
Yeah.
And the thing is, sorry, if you're watching, Tom, we were very clear at the time, and we explained what sovereign citizen meant. It's a legal term, and it's an oxymoron. You cannot be sovereign and a citizen at the same time, because obviously citizen means slave to the city, and sovereign means you have full authority over your life. You can't be both. You've got to pick one. So you can't be a sovereign citizen. So we did explain this to him, but he still chose to use the title sovereign citizen. Now, I think what he's trying to do, I don't know if he's doing this on purpose or something, but if he uses the term sovereign citizen, then he can try and clump us in with people in America and other countries that are causing violence and all the rest of it, and saying, oh, look at those sovereign citizens who are doing X, Y, Z, and trying to sort of pull us into that. I think that's what he's trying to do. It backfired on him very badly because everybody who's into sovereignty now knows that sovereign citizen is an oxymoron. So anyone using that term doesn't know what they're talking about. So sorry, Tom, that was a bit of a slip up on your part.
So, I mean, and again, it may be that's a way of getting bums on seats or eyes on the screen. It may be a way of, it may have been a deliberate thing to just upset people as a dig, or it may be, he may have heard that, completely forgot, under pressure, putting it together. Who knows? Because he's obviously not here to stand up for himself or answer for himself, shall we say?
No.
And it's not, I've got no skin in the game, as it were.
No.
So now there is an article that went along with this, and we can put that up on the screen. And I think you wanted to go through that, did you? Because you wanted to point out some of the errors or your reaction to it, however you want to describe it.
Yes, because so many people were sending me private messages, Facebook and all the rest of it, saying, have you seen it? What do you think of X, Y, Z? And instead of me trying to individually reply to all those people, I thought we might just go through it now, and then I'll just tell you what I think of it, and then everybody knows. Nice and simple. Again, we're not bashing Tom. I still think Tom's a nice guy. I really do. I just
Sure.
think he just needs a bit of help. And I think I'm willing to help him if he's truly willing to learn. So, a lot of people are brainwashed. They don't realize what they're doing. So,
And we're all at different stages of understanding who we are, what we are, the birth certificate, the various different frauds, the level of fraud, and most people are starting at zero with everything they've been told from what their parents have told them,
yes.
and they don't even realise their parents are people who rent their children. All of this stuff. Right. Okay. Let me grab the article then and just flick that up on the screen, and then you can talk us through it. So this is on their webpage. I'll leave the link on the description for you. And so it says, right at the top here, meeting the deeply radical anti-tax group that is growing in popularity.
Oh dear. That's not a good start. Although I'll take the radical term there because, I'm radical because I'm trying to make people think outside the box. And that is a radical idea because no one's actually done that yet. So I'll take this. But the anti-tax, let me just say something. I've got nothing wrong, nothing against tax at all. No, I haven't got a problem with it. If people want to pay tax, absolutely. I will not get involved in that. If you want to pay it, absolutely, you can pay it. I have no problem at all with that. But I know that tax is contractual. You can't be forced to pay it. So I just have a very simple question. Where's the contract? I'd just like to see the contract that I've signed that obligates me to pay tax to another man. Until I see that, then I've got no obligation to pay. It's a very simple question. So, yeah, we're not anti-tax and we are growing in popularity. That is absolutely true. So that bit is true. Let me think. I think about 10 people a day sign up to the Sovereign Project. So, yeah, we're growing massively. So that part is true.
Grand. Okay, so the Sovereign Project's members are unfailingly patient. Well, that's nice, isn't it?
Nice.
And polite. And why wouldn't you be? Because we're all honourable people in expanding their understanding of the world. But there is no doubt they hold a deeply radical view.
Interesting.
And now, if we scroll up, we get a picture from the. There he is. That's Tom, second on the right.
Yeah.
Third on the left, obviously. And a couple of extra people in there.
Yep, part of my team.
Part of your team. We see a little bit of the Magna Carta put in there.
I know.
And bags of money.
I have no idea what that's doing in there. We did discuss the Magna Carta briefly. One of my other team members, who's not in shot at the minute, he was talking about being British and patriotic and where this sense of being sovereign came from. But being sovereign does not mean that you are under the rule of the Magna Carta. So I don't know why you put that there. I don't know.
And I suppose in a way I mean, just to pause there for a second, because that is quite confusing, because there are other groups, are there not, that are very much entrenched in the Magna Carta. And if you were doing a sweeping Google of different people who have a similar outlook, that they're challenging the accepted legal, lawful stance of men and women in this country, you would find those that are in the Magna, who are very much following the Magna Carta and saying that is the document we must start at. That's the starting point. That's fair to say. Would you say?
I would agree. There are a lot of people who are into the Magna Carta. It is a starting point. I did research the Magna Carta many years ago when I was on my own personal journey. There is some parts of the Magna Carta I agree with because or can relate to, because this was the first time I'm going to have to use air quotes here. This is the first time in British history where people stood up to the king and basically says, no, we're equal. So that's when the barons became equal to the king, free men. So the idea behind the Magna Carta, I agree with. So that's where it actually came from. But it didn't save the people. People means chattel, by the way. So if the king is addressing his people, he says, I'm addressing my people. He's saying, I own you. You live upon my land. You inhabit my land. Therefore, I own you. You're slaves to me. That's what people means. I'm not a people. I'm not part of people. So a lot of people get into the Magna Carta. Now, as sovereign, you would already know that I cannot be under someone else's contract or jurisdiction. And the Magna Carta is basically a contract between a king and a barons. My signature's not on it. So although I agree with some of the essence of it, I don't use it. It's got nothing to do with me. I live in my own sovereignty. So I don't know why he used it.
Right. Okay. So let's go back to the. I'm having to flick around here just because I don't have the Sky Studio myself, just so that people are aware of that. But it's a little studio in the upstairs of my two up, two down house. Anyway, here we are. We're back there now. And so we get on to the meat and veg of the piece. It says, if you are a member of something, and this is in quotes, it means you've accepted membership. Anything with ship on the end, it's giving you a clue. It's telling you that it's maritime law. That means you've entered into a contract. Now, I'm assuming that they are your words.
Absolutely correct. He quoted me perfectly. And this is why I was quite surprised, because when I read this article, a lot of it, I thought, well done, Tom. Maybe he's thinking, maybe he's questioning this stuff, but this is an absolute quote. I think I've said this many times, but anything with ship on the end is giving you a clue. That's maritime law. It means you're entering into a contract. Membership, you're entering into a contract with someone else. So yeah, he put it there. Well done, Tom. Fantastic.
Okay, so shall I carry on reading it, or do you want to sort of add bits? So it goes on. This isn't your standard legal argument, and it is becoming clear that I'm dealing with an unusual way of looking at the world. And these are back to Tom's words, I guess.
That's Tom's words. That's right. So that's what he's saying. So he's saying it's not a standard legal argument. That's correct. It's not, because most, let me see. So we say lawyers, barristers, all those sort of people, they're part of the system. They're not going to explain to you how it actually works, or they'd all be out of a job. So yes, this is not a standard legal argument.
And when you say they're part of the system, I mean they've taken an oath to the private bar guild that runs the legalese in or legislation and legal matters across the English-speaking world.
Yes, absolutely right. So that is basically the system. It's a private corporation. It's a private jurisdiction, private entity, and all the legal people who work for this entity, if you like, the Bar Association. They will not tell you the truth. They will not. Some of them don't know, because some of my friends are actually lawyers and they don't know, and they're waking up and they realize that they've been tricked. So yes, it's not a standard legal argument. This is why I think outside the box, and people are waking up to it, which is good.
So he says, I'm in the library of a hotel in Leicestershire. A wood-panelled room with warm lighting, and Pete Stone, better known as Sovereign Pete, is explaining how the system works. Mr. Stone is, in his mind, 50, bald, nothing wrong with that, by the way, with a goatee beard and wearing, as he always does for public appearances, a black T-shirt and black jeans.
Well, he said I'm in my mid-50s. I'm in my early 50s. So, he's added a couple of extra years to me there. And I'm not a mister. So, but I'll forgive him on that.
Okay. With us are 6 other people, mainly dressed in neat jumpers. Quite why you need to, say how they're dressed, I don't know. But I guess you're trying. Is he trying to sort of show? Well, they're not your strange, weird hippies who've got tie and dye and dreadlocks, or so. I don't know whether. And I say that not because I've got anything against anybody, and it's not a detrimental statement, but you could. Anyway, he's basically, you look like ordinary everyday people that you might meet in the street is effectively what he's saying, which is what we all are, aren't we?
Yes.
So they're all they're members of the Sovereign Project, SP, an organisation, Mr. Stone, founded in 2020, which he says now has more than 20,000 paying members.
That's not good. Yes, we've got around 20,000 members, but none of them are paying. So that's naughty. Because one of the things with the Sovereign Project is we don't charge for the membership. It's free membership. And the information is also free. So they're not paying.
Right.
Naughty, naughty, Tom.
So that does give a false impression, doesn't it?
It does.
As arcane as this may sound, it represents a worldview that is becoming more influential and causing problems for authorities. Loosely, they're defined as sovereign citizens or free men on the land.
Well, first of all, authorities. There's no such thing as authorities. So only someone who's brainwashed would actually use that terminology, authorities. A man would never say that, because a man knows there's no one higher than him. There's no authority above me. If you're religious, yeah, sure, you can say God is. But other than that, no one is above you. So there's no such thing as authorities, and of course they're using the legal terms sovereign, citizen, and free man on the land. Now, let me just explain free man on the land. Free man on the land has now become a legal term that's being used within the legal system, and it represents someone who does not know how the system works and should be ignored. So this has come from a good source. So this is a lawyer. So if lawyers, barristers, anyone in the legal system should receive documentation written in the style of free man on the land, it should be ignored, and the solicitor should just carry on, disregard the paperwork as if it's not there. So they're going to trample over you. So you want to stay away from the free man on the land. If it's applied to you, you say, "Oi, have you got any proof that I ever used that term, free man on the land?" So yeah, we've got to be careful of these legal terms.
And just for those people who are tuning in who perhaps haven't seen what you do or know what I often talk about, or the guests that I have, I should say, talk about, what do we mean, or what is meant by freeman of the land?
Right. Okay. Now this is where it gets into trickiness with the syntax. You've got to understand a little bit of parse syntax grammar to understand what is going on.
I'm glad it's easy.
Yeah, yeah. I think you probably know by now that you've got to be careful with the wording. We know that words
Yes.
have different meanings. We also know that syntax can change the meaning of words. Sentences can be rearranged to mean something different. And you've got something like free man of the land. Now, if that's done as a legal term, it means someone who does not know how to use the legal system, but is trying to engage in it. In other words, you've engaged in it, you're turning your back on it, and you are without honor. Therefore, the legal system is going to come after you. Now, if we use it using simple English like free man on the land, and you want to explain what that means, it says, well, man, I am man, that's a species. I live upon the land, nothing wrong with that, and I am free. So,
Free from.
free from any higher authority. So, free meaning no other man or woman can tell me what to do. They cannot impose their will upon me. They cannot force me to pay taxes. They cannot force me to do something, work for them for free. They can't imply any of their ideas, ideologies onto me in any way, shape, or form. That's what freedom means. Well, freedom means you are free in your dominion. So, I'm free in my dominion. If someone enters my dominion, then they are under my rule, and I make the rules within my dominion. So that's what freedom means. And I think a lot of people are trying to twist it. They're saying, "Oh, does that mean you're free to go around murdering people?" And I go, "Oh, no, because that
No.
violates the rights of another man, and you don't have the right to do that." So that's a simpleton. That's like stupid people would make that argument. So free just means you are not controlled by anyone else. Period.
And I suppose if you take the concept that all people are equal, or all men and women are equal, then how can anyone be higher or lower than you unless they've agreed?
Exactly right. If they've agreed in contract, not a problem. If you want to work for somebody and now you've got a boss and they are above you, not a problem. That doesn't violate any rights at all, as long as you consented and you went and you signed the contract and your boss signed the contract. And of course, the boss's authority is limited to that contract. So he only has authority over you within the limitations of that contract. He can't tell you you can't drink or you can't do this at the weekend or play football. No, I'm just working for you and I'm operating the widget machine. That's what I agreed to do. So, yes, people can only tell you what to do through contract.
Right, let's crack on with this article. Press the appropriate buttons. So, where were we? Here we go. Right, so their fundamental point is that nobody is required to obey the laws they have not specifically consented to, which in a way is what we've just kind of said. Especially when it comes to tax. They have hundreds of thousands of followers in the UK across platforms, including YouTube, Facebook, and Telegram.
We do. It is. It's in the hundreds of thousands now. So here we go with I'll just unpack that sentence where it says their fundamental point is that nobody is required to obey the law. And we're not talking about law. There's no sovereign who's ever going to say he's above the law because he can't say that. So no, what we're saying is everything that's being offered to us is basically a legislation. It's corporate policy. It's contracts, it's offers. That's right. So that's what we say. It says if we're being like ULEZ, for example, that's not the law. How can it be? How can that be the law? It doesn't even make any sense. I mean, if you don't pay the ULEZ fine, who's the victim? There isn't one. So no law has been broken then. So if there's no victim, no law has been broken. So there's no law. That's very simple to understand. So we say that everything that's coming from government, which is a corporation, we all know that now, unless you've got an IQ of less than 85, the UK is a corporation. They offer policy only. And by the way, the politicians tell you this to your face. How many times have you seen a politician on the news saying we're changing policy? They will tell you on camera they're changing policy, which is policy in a contract. So I'll say, well, is my signature on it? If not, doesn't apply to me, can't be forced upon me. So yeah, we're trying to explain that to
the term law is often misused from what I understand, because what they're talking about is legal, and lawful, and so the legal people seem to use the legal and law almost interchangeable, as if it's the same thing, whereas lawful people know exactly what law means, and they don't say legal because they know that is a completely separate thing, which you have to agree to and have a contract with.
Absolutely correct. Yeah, I mean, legal basically in layman's terms just means contract. That's simple it is. I mean, the term legal standing, what does that mean? Legal refers to a contract or agreement between two parties. And the standing part actually means a man or woman literally standing, someone who is alive. So someone who is alive, they can make the law within their dominion. They are the authors of it, you see, from their words, from their pen. So legal standing basically means that document must have someone's name on it. They must sign it. If it's got no name, if it's not signed, there's no legal standing. But this isn't very difficult to understand. It's very, very simple when you understand basic contract law, but that's what legal means.
Well, but you did say it there. I mean, it is easy to understand when you understand contract law, but most people don't understand contract law, and because we're not, and you can't blame people for that because we're not taught it.
That's true. They hide it from you. You're not taught this in school. You're not even taught it properly if you go to university and get a law degree. You're not even taught this stuff.
Right.
So you have to make a decision to teach yourself. So everyone has to go, I am going to do one evening a week. I'm going to study this and I'm going to learn it as I did.
No, absolutely. I mean, but that's where people like Tom will possibly use these interchanging words, not realizing that actually, as you said at the beginning, that these words have very specific meanings, especially when in the talk that we're having and that Tom did in his article. They have very specific meanings. And if you fudge the words, you're fudging the meanings. And so it's not very helpful for anybody else because they then will get a fudged picture rather than an accurate picture.
Yes, correct.
I tried to put that in some sort of English there.
I know it's difficult to do, isn't it?
Without fudging it myself. But anyway, right, here we go. So to go on, then increasingly they're becoming into conflict with governments and the law. Ooh. And hang on, which law is he talking about in this case? Sovereign citizens, whoever they are, have ended up in the High Court in recent months, challenging the legalities of tax bills and losing on both occasions. Now, that's an interesting bit of English there.
Yeah.
Because he says on both occasions, which means twice. So what, they've been into court for 2 times? Or does he mean on all the occasions that they've challenged both those things together? That to me is a bit sloppy English.
It is, but I think I know what he was referring to. There was a lady, I can't remember her name. She did try challenging the council tax, and she went to court to challenge it. Unfortunately, she made the mistake of going into court and said that she was operating under common law. Now, if you do that, if you go into these courtrooms and you say you're operating in common law, the judge knows you have no clue what you're doing and you've already lost. Remember, if you say to the judge you're operating in common law, that is basically the king's common law that makes you a people, makes you a serf of the land. It means you have no rights. And it also means that you are guilty until you prove yourself innocent. So unfortunately, the lady went in there, didn't really know what she was doing. I mean, I don't know who she was, but I tipped my hat at her. At least she had a go. So well done to whoever that person was. You had a crack at it. Well done. Don't give up. Keep going. Now, the way you actually challenge council tax is through commerce. You play the commerce game. And all you do is you don't have to go in the courts and say, "I, the living man," and explain that, how a living man can be obligated to pay a corporation and the legal persona. Don't do that. Or you go in and say, "I just need to see the contract from said council. I need to see it. That's all I want to see." And there isn't one. It's a simple, basic commerce. And this is actually coming from a friend of mine who's a lawyer who's given me some tips. So
And
that's it.
I mean, when you do that, or if you do that in writing to the council, they'll say, there isn't a contract. We don't need one because we have the Local Finance Act 1992.
That's correct.
I've been learning this stuff, over the last couple of years. It's like, let's go on in there.
That's right. Yes, you're doing brilliantly. Absolutely fantastic. That is the argument they will make. But obviously, if you look at the Finance Act, 1992 Finance Act, what does it say? It says resident, legal term, straight away. Because resident does not mean the three-dimensional living man living at his home. That's not what it means. A resident is someone who does not own the property, but is actually occupying the property for the act of commerce. And you are currently in commerce with the said council. So you go in there and you say, well, hang on a minute, I need proof that I've accepted the legal title resident. And I also need to know what business of commerce am I conducting. And I also want the council to identify themselves, because most councils won't do that. And so you say, well, I need to know your DUNS number, I need to know your company house number, and I need to see your incorporated certificate. And if you don't show them, then you've got no legal standing, you've got no right to be here anyway. So you treat it as commerce and you just go in there. See, this is why people fail, because they don't know how to read what is written. But just one other thing. If the council, if you get any letter, any website from the council saying we do not need a contract, but you've got to pay us anyway, that is threatening. That is a crime. And that violates commerce itself, because all of commerce is based on contract. Now, there is a contract. It's just that average people don't know. They don't know they've been tricked into entering into a contract with the council. It's all to do with your title deeds at the land registry. You are a serf. You are living on the king's estate. When you bought your house, you didn't buy your house. You bought a title to live on the king's estate. Therefore, you've got to pay tax to live on his estate. They will never tell you this because the game would be up. So instead, they just quote the 1992 Act. And you go, no. 1992 Act applies to residents only. Simple commerce.
And so again, it is a huge thing about knowing what those words mean.
Yes.
Because the Oxford English Dictionary will give you general everyday meaning of a word.
Correct.
But in legalese, the legal language, it will mean something different. And that's the thing. They're using a different dictionary to the ones that most people are using. And I've certainly learnt that.
Yes.
Over the time. Right. Let's crack on. And I'm hoping that this is making sense to other people as they see this, because they're probably learning extra bits and pieces. So you can find out more on Leicestershire here if you wish, but if we scroll down to the relevant parts of the article, it says, in October, 4 people were sentenced to prison for the attempted kidnap of an Essex coroner, who they saw as acting unlawfully. The self-appointed sheriffs, in inverted commas here, attempted to force entry to the court, one of them demanding, "You guys have been practicing fraud." I don't know why I did that in a pseudo-American accent.
Yeah, it sounded like a sheriff.
It sounded well, that's it. That's how I was being like McLeod. Do you remember McLeod?
Yeah,
there you go. Anyway, these 4 people. And what's this got to do with you?
Yes, exactly right. Exactly right. That wasn't me. I didn't go in there. I mean, I know of the person who went in there. I know of his work. I've never met him, never spoke to him. He has some interesting points. Now, I don't know why he did this, and I wouldn't advise to do this. I mean, one of the things we do at the Sovereign Fraternity is we do not get involved. So we are not going to be storming any judges' houses or courts or 10 Downing Street in any way, shape, or form. We don't do that. we deal with paperwork, and we just challenge the contract. So yeah, I think Tom is somehow trying to add, or I don't know, bring what they did to the Sovereign Project.
So, I mean, that's kind of a bit of a slur on your reputation if you pull, because there's lots of different groups doing lots of different things.
Yeah.
And you could say that about the mafia. Let's say if you could be talking about the mafia and going, well, the mafia are this, that, and the other, and they'll shoot their own if they do wrong. And then you could talk about another group of gangsters. But if you were then to conflate the two, you're talking about something totally different.
Yes.
And it seems, not saying for one moment, by the way, that you're
the mafia,
that you're the mafia or gangsters or anything like that. You could have been talking about, nice little fairies, sort of dancing around. But I didn't want to put you in a tutu.
No.
But do you know what I mean? So it does sound like there's another group somewhere doing whatever work they're doing, and best of luck to them if they're challenging corrupt systems. That's what a lot of people are doing.
Each their own.
And each their own. But by bringing that in, because the article's not about groups challenging the system, it's about you guys and your method, and that's a little unfair. It's disingenuous. Yes. Because he's then sort of conflating different groups.
Yes.
And that to me, it just seems a little unfair. Right. Okay. So let's just crack on a bit further then and see what other exciting. So, and then he put in a video. Let's have a look here. He did put the video in. I won't play that. And I did play it, and I can't remember what happened. Not very much happens in that video. It was a very strange video. But anyway, the Sovereign Project is not connected. Oh, then he goes on saying,
yeah, it's funny though, isn't it?
So, well, I put it in.
Yes.
The Sovereign Project is not connected to any of those cases, nor does it promote any sort of political action, let alone violence.
Okay.
So what was the point?
You've
introduced something that needn't have been there,
Correct.
which leaves an unsalutary taste in the mouth. Instead, it says they're focused on issues like questioning the obligation to pay taxes, as Mr. Stone explains, referencing the feudal system that operated in the Middle Ages.
That's right. And this is what people don't understand. They're still operating in it. The feudal system never ended. It's still operating right now, and it's in plain sight for those who want to read and learn how to read. I'll give you one very simple thing. If everyone could play this game, you can go on any website selling houses, okay, whatever, doesn't matter, and you'll see all these houses for sale, and it will say tenure. And you go, what does that mean? Tenure means you are holding something, either a document, a position, or office that has been issued or granted to you, meaning whoever issued or granted it to you has authority over it. So you are lesser status. You are being issued something. That's why you've been granted tenure. And it will all say it there, tenure, and it will say freehold, and it will say leasehold. This is in your face. And you go, well, what does freehold mean and what does leasehold mean? First of all, hold. They're telling you you're holding something, and you're actually holding a title, not a deed. People think they've got deeds. You don't have a deed. You might have a deed of trust, but you have a title. You have a title which is called a fee simple title estate. I'm doing that from memory. Basically, it is a title within the king's estate that have fees attached, and you have got permission to live on his land as long as you pay these fees, and you'll carry out certain obligations, and there are certain restrictions, like you can't build on it. So freehold just means you are free to hold this title, and you can pass it on to your children. Leasehold is the same thing. You're free to hold the title, but after, say, 99 years, a certain time period, it's got to go back to the king. And this is where inheritance tax comes into play, because you have got a title of the king's estate. And then when you pass on and you hand it over to your children, the king wants his slice. You've got to pay the king because you're handing over the title to a new person. So he gets his 20%. And that's how inheritance tax works. And they're telling you in black and white writing in front of your eyes, and the average person can't even read. So yes, we are still in the feudal system, and people have just got to wake up to it.
Well, this is the advantage of what you're doing in your group is you're pointing out these words, and then when it's explained to you and you say, well, you're holding something, you don't actually own it, or it's not yours, you're holding it. But then at the end of the day, nobody can own anything because we're only on this earth for so many years and we snuff it. We can't take it with us. So we're always temporarily have something, but it's nice if we can have it.
All.
And yeah, well,
with no third-party interference.
With no third party, absolutely. If during the time we want it.
Yes, while we're here.
While we're here, exactly. Right, let's shunt on to more of this, he says. Here we go. Right, so in the Middle Ages, right. And quote marks, do you know, this presumably is you, do you know about the feudal system when people were slaves and were forced to pay tax, he asks.
Oh, that's right.
And he asks that, and he says, he carries on, this is presumably your words. Now, unless the feudal system still operates today, we still have serfs and slaves, then the only way you can pay taxes is to have a contract. You have to agree and consent to it. So another member, Carl Deans, a 43-year-old property developer with very nice hair, 6'2" and perfect. Well, it does sound, it's just so strange when they put all these things. 43-year-old property developer who runs the SP's social media, Sovereign Project social media, says, we're not here to dodge tax.
Right.
Local government tends to be a target beyond just demands for tax. Mr. Stone speaks of council employee crimes. What does Mr. Stone say that is?
Very strange. Okay, yeah. Local government tends to be a target beyond just demands for tax. Mr. Stone speaks of council employees. Right. So let me try and explain what's going on. Again, we mentioned this earlier. The UK is a corporation, and so is government. Government's just a corporation. It's a legal entity written down on paper only. But there are people who work for it. These are employees. These are living, breathing men or women, and they carry out paperwork day in, day out. So what I was trying to explain to Tom is that these individual people are liable for their own actions. So these demands for payment don't just magically appear. Some stork comes in and drops it, some fairy dust sprinkles. No, there's an employee typing this out on a computer, pressing print, and then sending it to you. They are liable for this. They have to stop. The reason being is that the people who control at the very, very top of this system, they control it all, but they do not protect the ones at the bottom. If the ones at the bottom are found to be doing criminal things, and they are all doing that, then they are sent out to dry. They are on their own. This is including the police, by the way, because if you're a police officer, you've sworn an oath. You are literally liable for your own actions. So if you do something wrong, you're on your own. So everyone who's working for the council, and this is provable, by the way, anyone who's looked into this and looked into the fake court summons and the fake liability orders and all the rest of it, knows that the paperwork coming from these council tax departments is fraudulent. They're trying to make it look like it's coming from a court when in fact it's not. And even in their own legislation, that's 7 years imprisonment. So I was giving a warning out there to anyone who works for the council. You've got to be very, very careful, because as more and more people wake up to this, your neck is on the chopping block. Let's put it that way.
One of the problems that people have then, presumably, is when you get any letter from the council these days, it's all you get is no signature, no name very frequently, and just a position, the so-and-so officer. Or sometimes just as I've seen people who send their stuff to me in the emails that I get to say I got this, it'll be like, either if it's a policeman, it'll just be the traffic enforcement office or department, or the council tax department. And so although somebody somewhere has pushed the button and it's been printed, and somebody else has put it in an envelope, and Mrs. Miggs at the end has gone, there you are, put it on a stamp and post it. And Gerald has gone down to the post office. Whoever's involved in that process of putting the stuff together, you're saying that they're all liable because I guess if you're all in a fraudulent act,
Yes.
it's like receiving stolen goods, isn't it?
Correct.
If you've received stolen goods, particularly if you know it's stolen goods, and you just go, oh well, whatever, I bought it from a bloke from a shady thing, you're just as liable as the next one.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
if you're one of those people who are holding a rifle at a firing line, and you're just going, no, I'm just following orders. I've just been told to pull the trigger. I didn't kill him. I just pulled a trigger. It's like, well, aren't you all liable to that?
Yes.
You could say this is ethically wrong, and I'm not
Yes.
doing it.
You're absolutely correct. 100%.
Whereupon everybody else turns the rifles on you and shoots you. But then that just shows how fraudulent it is.
Yes.
And it does. And so really, I mean, part of what you're saying there is it needs those people in the council to sort of understand the role they're playing and say, actually, is this morally right? And is this lawfully right?
Yeah.
Because where does the authority come from to go and charge somebody or take money from somebody for just living in a house with a roof over their head?
I know. How can you send someone a bill if they've not even placed an order? They're not even following simple commerce. Where's the contract? Where's the order? Where's the invoice? Where's all this paperwork? In fact, if you even ask to say what services are being provided for me, they can't even tell you that. They're just you're just general services. They go, that's not good enough. That's not how we conduct commerce. But I mean, going back to the letter writing stuff, and although they might not sign anything, they're still liable for it. It's like if someone sent a ransom note.
Oh, yes, they don't sign those, do they?
But whoever sent it, he's
Bob
liable.
at number 32. All right, but don't tell no one.
Yes.
Don't read that bit. Please don't read that. No, but they're liable, aren't they? I mean, if it was up in a court of law and it was proved that you were the ones who cut the newspaper bits and made up the words and glued it together, the fact you didn't sign it, you sent it out, you used the threatening language.
That's correct. If you put a threatening note in someone's letterbox, I'm going to kill you, and you're liable for that, even though you didn't sign it. So yeah, they're liable. They can't hide behind corporations and legal fictions, which I've said for many years.
Yes, but they do try.
They do try.
And at the moment they've been getting away with it, but it's about time they didn't.
I agree with that.
Right. Okay. So we're cracking on here.
Yep.
So, okay, I ask, now this presumably is Tom again now, I ask whether, considering the attempted kidnap in Essex, there is a danger that people will listen to these accusations of crimes by councils and act on them. Well, again, he's conflating two separate incidents, isn't he?
Absolutely. This is insane. This is like the thing with, if someone listens to me, or anybody, or listens to yourself, or even listens to, I don't know, a Sky News journalist, and then somehow acts on that information, is the Sky News journalist now responsible? Am I responsible, or are you responsible? Of course not. We are not responsible for the actions of someone else. We've got free speech. We can give out some information, but if someone wants to do something crazy, it's on them. They are responsible for it.
Yes, because, I mean, just to be clear on that, I mean, like on a show like this and what you're doing is saying, here is some information. What you do with it is entirely up to you.
Yes.
Unlike the council is saying, here is some information, but you've got to pay us. Or we'll take you to court, a fake court, by the way. We won't tell you that bit. And then we'll give you a fake liability. And we'll come around and send some fake bods who have no deed of assignment. And we'll extract the money out. We will be like the mafia.
Yeah.
If you don't pay up, we'll send the boys round. Whereas we're not saying that. We're saying, look, here's some information.
No.
If you want to look into it, make sure you're happy with it. See if it's right, because we may be wrong. We're all fallible. You may have heard it wrong.
Yep.
Just check it out. Go and do all those things. Then if you do act it, you're acting on your own liability. Don't just follow advice blindly. Brilliant. Okay.
And I never give advice. So I never give advice or tell people what to do. All I do is say, here's some information I've found, might be of use to you.
Right. So, and in this, well, that's proved, Mr. Stone says, we only deal with facts.
Yes.
Marvellous. So, Evidence suggests this approach is becoming an issue for councils across the UK as people search online for ways to avoid paying tax. And so do big businesses search for ways to avoid paying
Oh,
tax
yes.
in all sorts of different manners. Legal tax schemes, they may well be called. But there's nothing wrong with people looking at ways to not pay what they don't have to.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the thing is we don't avoid paying tax. You can't do that because if you try and avoid paying tax, it means you have an obligation to pay it. You've already lost. So we
Right.
don't do that. We don't try and avoid it. We don't evade it or anything like that. We're not running away. We're just saying, well, hang on a minute. Can I see the contract, please? I
Yes.
need to
Where is
see
it
the...
even liable?
Exactly. How am I liable? Where's the obligation? It's that simple.
Sky News analysis shows that out of 374 council websites covering Great Britain, at least 172, now that is 46%, have pages responding to sovereign citizen arguments around avoiding paying, end in blue, council tax. They point out that liability for council tax is not dependent on consent or a contract, and, as we've just referred to this ourselves, instead relies on something called the Local Government Finance Act 1992, voted on by Parliament.
I can't believe you put that in there.
Voted on by Parliament. But the Sovereign Project's worldview extends beyond council tax. It is deeply anti-establishment, at times conspiratorial. Stone suggests, no longer Mr. Stone,
That's
now
dropped
notice.
now, yeah.
Stone suggests the summer riots may have been organised by the government. Which summer riots is he referring to? And which government? Is what I would say, and at times, well, which times conspiratorial? And give us an example. This is where I think it is sort of Sun Reader's text here. The Sky, it's like so very vague.
Yes, very vague, and it's done deliberately. I can't even remember the conversation we're having on the summer riots either, but we did discuss false flag events, that sort of stuff. So we got into some of that stuff. Where it says, look, if you do your research, you'll find that a lot of these so-called protests and riots, such as these, have actually been set up by the very government that the protest and the riot is against. So I just said, do your history. I think it was the Nazi parties who started doing this. They did false flag events, burning down buildings and then blaming the people so they could gain power. So this is an old trick. If you've done some research on this, if you know some history, you'll know it fully. I don't think Tom has. Because normally when I talk to people about this, about, governments organizing petitions and protests and riots and all the rest of it. And by the way, governments have also organized terrorism. Go and research state-sponsored terrorism. Go and look that up. When I talk about this to many, many people in my circle, they know this. Yeah, we know. You don't have to explain it to us. It's like common knowledge. But Tom looked all puzzled and confused, like, government would never do anything wrong. Okay.
Yeah, it's like a lot of people who are slightly misinformed that the government would do no harm. Especially those pensioners who've just lost their winter fuel payments, who possibly voted for Mr. Starmer and thought he was going to be a nice bloke, and it turns out he whipped the carpet from under their feet. The fact that we see government 30 years hence open up boxes that have been marked private, and it turns out, oh, Mrs. Thatcher did this. Did she? Yes. She didn't tell us that at the time, did she? No, that was a secret. And she went, great. Well, she wasn't supposed to do that. No, but we're now revealing it. Well, the fact that they've done that in the past, do we not think they do that now?
Exactly.
I mean, do people they think, oh, well, that happened in the past. It doesn't happen now. No, it wouldn't happen now that, millions of people were given something and encouraged to take something that people have dropped down on the floor in some non-movement capacity thereafter. We know that governments, are not always, they're economical with the truth.
Oh, that's very diplomatic, very politically
yes, I have to be
correct.
diplomatic on this platform as much as one can, much to the amusement of the audience, I think. Right, so we're nearly at the end of this. Nearly at the end. There we go. So, right, where do we get out there? So this is now, I think, your answer. The sovereign fraternity operates above all of this. Quite right. He says, we look down at the world like a chessboard. We see what's going on. He explains that really the UK government isn't actually in control. There is a shadow government above them. Oh. And interesting that Dominic Cummings, in a recent thing, said exactly that.
Yes.
Which was come out on the Beverly, whatever her name, not Beverly Craven, Beverly somebody or other on GB News did a piece about it. Somebody sent me. And a couple of other people are now doing that. So, and Dominic Cummings, although not voted by anybody, was in there and saw it and is saying that. Now, whether that's true or not from his mouth, who knows? But I think we all realise that things like the WHO, the WEF, and Bill Gates and many of the other globalists seem to at least have almost conclusive evidence pulling strings. Yes. I think they're all worked by Jerry Anderson, myself, on the set of Thunderbirds. But anyway, a lot of people, so he goes, this is you carrying on, I think. Yep. A lot of people say this could be the Crown Council of 13. Yep. This could be a series of Italian families.
Yep, that's all we know. This is as far as my research has gone. There are other people out there that have gone deeper on this line of research than me, and they could probably be a good guess for you. But yeah, it appears to be, got to go back hundreds, if not thousands of years. But it looks like there's 13 bloodline families, Italian families, and they're called the Crown Council of the 13. And they're the ones who own everything, and they own all these corporations, and they run the Crown Corporation. That's as far as I can get. So that's what it appears to be.
So, yeah, brilliant. Okay, so let's fiddle here with the buttons in the studio to make it sound really exciting. Right, so then we have a picture. So now violence broke out in numerous towns and cities in August. Pick from PA. Apropos of nothing. So again, I mean, this is where, to me, this is sloppy journalism. Violence, well, we don't know what kind of violence. No. There's no violence going on in the picture. Broke out in numerous, which towns and which cities in which country? I mean, is that text actually related to that? It's obviously in Britain because of the police and what have you. And I know that horse particularly well. It's a lovely horse. His name's Cyril. And the pick care of PA could be anybody.
Oh, I don't know.
Let's not go on. Anyway, let's crack on because time is short
we're
now.
We're going to get polished off quick.
Yes, so Professor Christine something I can't pronounce, an expert in sovereign citizens at Chatham University, Pittsburgh, says she's worried about the threat of sovereign citizens may pose to the rule of law, especially in the US, where guns are readily available. It's got nothing to do with us, has it?
No.
So, and I think we may be getting a picture of her in a minute. The movement is growing, and that's evidenced by seeing it in different countries and hearing about different cases. The concern is that they will become emboldened and commit acts of violence, she says. Why should they? Why would they get... She wasn't at the meeting, was she?
No.
It's ridiculous. So, so he's just talking to somebody else for the sake of filling out text, really. Yes. I'm sure, as you said, you had 2 hours of wonderful text you could have put in, but he's going to somebody else. And so she's saying that they might be, the concern, it's a concern they might do, but people might be emboldened by anything. Yeah. They might be emboldened that people are putting, I don't know, additives into cows' feed and getting out with Bovia.
Very true.
So this presumably is more of her words. Because sovereigns truly, but now they're sovereigns, they're not sovereign citizens, here we go, truly believe their ideas, and why wouldn't you believe in your idea? And if they feel aggrieved by, the government, sorry, she's American, isn't she?
Yeah,
because sovereigns truly believe in their dreams, and if they feel aggrieved by, the government or whomever they think. Sorry, I'm probably disingenuousing to the woman. I've got no, thing against her at all. Whomever they think is oppressing them or controlling them, they may become emotionally involved. Well, you would be emotionally involved if somebody is controlling you, wouldn't you?
I would have thought so.
the emotional involvement sometimes leads to violence. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And in some cases, it's all very sort of generic, isn't it?
It is, isn't it?
Some cases, or the belief that they have power to attempt to overthrow the government in some capacity. Like, I might overthrow you when I next vote. It's like nothing very specific in all of that.
No.
He goes on, much of this seems to be based on an underlying and familiar frustration at the state of this country and of the world. Well, why wouldn't you be frustrated? I mean, you only have to take a look at it.
Yes.
Mr. Stone, we're back to Mr. Stone.
Right, Mr. again.
Echoes some of the characteristic arguments also made by the right. And there's a two-tier policing. That refugees arriving in the UK are young men of fighting age, they do seem to be,
They do.
that the government is using forced migration to destroy the country.
And there's a topic, isn't it?
That is a topic. Is that got to do with the Sovereign Project?
Not really, no.
Another Sovereign Project member, a retired investment banker, David Hopgood, 61, says, I firmly believe that this... I'll read that again. I firmly believe it is the true Englishman and woman of this country that has the power to unlock this madness that's happening in the West.
Absolutely. I can agree with that.
He goes on, we've got the Magna Carta. Here we go. We come back to that.
Yes.
All these checks and balances. We need to pack up, go down to Parliament and say, it's time to dismiss you. You're not fit for purpose.
I agree with that. You're not fit for purpose. Don't need you.
And this is just, one person's, this is,
Yes.
again, but it's one person's view. It's not necessarily, you may agree with it and you can tell me differently, but is that the view of the Sovereign Project?
Yeah, apart from the Magna Carta part, Dave is a lovely chap, very, very smart. He's on his own personal journey and he's learning this very quickly. So he's a little bit off mark with the Magna Carta. I think his words with terminology wasn't quite right. When he said, we've got the Magna Carta, I think he was referring to the fact that the Magna Carta started the idea that we were all equal.
Right.
I think he's been taken out of context there.
But again, I'm being critical on the journal. Not that I've got anything against Tom, but it's like this is one person's belief, and you confirm that you pretty much agree with what he's saying, and I would agree that the government isn't fit for purpose. I've said that many times.
Yes,
you only have to look at how anti-human it all is. Not that human is a good word to pick out how anti-men and women is. The members, so finally comes up here with this closing statement. The members of the Sovereign Project are unfailingly patient and polite in explaining and their understanding of the world. But there is no doubt that they hold a deeply radical view, one that is apparently growing in popularity. And what's wrong with that? If people have an agreement on something, the people of the land, and it's popular, is that then... it gives the illusion that you can't all agree on something that is popular and that actually people might want, like freedom.
Freedom, yeah.
And the ability to choose what they want to do rather than be controlled by some authority who you haven't agreed to or consented to or signed a contract with.
Absolutely correct. What's radical about that?
Exactly. Surely. So, well, that's the article. That's the thing. And I've just realised we're just going up to the hour. So what's overall? Yeah. What's your opinion on the whole thing?
Well, it's fine. He made a few little mistakes, shall we say? You pointed out a lot of them. You did great with that. Trying to tie in violence somehow. I don't know why you would do that. We're not violent. We don't say that. We don't promote violence.
You do everything on paper.
We do.
I mean, the most violent thing you can do would be to make a paper aeroplane and throw it at someone.
Yeah, throw my pen at you. So, all I can say is that once that went out, the traffic on our website went ballistic. So many people looked up the Sovereign Project. It was great.
Well, you couldn't ask for more, could you really? I mean, he didn't, to be fair to Tom, and, let's hope he does watch this. Yeah. Because if he's genuinely interested, it may be part of his journey. He may be thinking, actually, do you know what? I don't want to work for such an organisation anymore that doesn't tell necessarily the whole truth and nothing but the truth. I may want to find out more and become a sovereign man himself. not a citizen,
No.
and but he may not. But he may. Where I was just more annoyed is the sloppy journalism, because it's sort of, as you say, it's bringing in other things and it's tarnishing. But he could have done a really bad job.
Yeah.
I mean, he did. You know, to be fair to Tom, he didn't do a hugely bad job. I'm not a journalist. I'm not trained as a journalist. I don't claim to be a journalist. I'm just an idiot who sits on YouTube with an opinion, and I interview some amazing people. I'm nobody, and I never claim to be anybody. And people don't have to listen to me. They don't have to turn the video on or select to watch it. You know, that's the thing. And at the moment, I'm not even paid by the adverts that was on YouTube being demonetized. By the way, thanks very much to everybody who has donated. You're very, very kind, and I love you dearly. But he could have made it worse and made you out to be, you know, a bunch of absolute loonies. I think he's actually done a reasonable job to make people think, well, actually, I don't think tax is fair. I don't think, I don't mind contributing to my community, but I'd like to know, community, but bad word, but, general people know what I mean.
General people.
Or the people around, or the men and women in my tribe, let's say.
In my network, in this area that I happen on the earth where I happen to reside, whatever bloody words we're allowed to use. Some people say, well, I don't mind contributing, but I'd like to be able to have many options and also contribute in my way. Yeah,
rather than some big organisation which apparently we're supposed to be in control of, telling me what I'm supposed to do.
Exactly.
So
it's my choice, it's my consent. If I earn money, it's my choice how I spend it and who I spend it with, and where, if I want to give it away, if I want to do this, that, the other, it's my choice. And that's the right of every man and woman. Every man and woman has the right to choose how they spend the money they earn. They cannot be forced, because that is slavery. It's that simple.
And where's the problem with that?
None at all.
From people watching, they go, oh yeah, but you've got to have this and you've got to have that. Well, why? Why have you got to have that? Why can't we all get on? Where can people find, if they've watched this and they think this sounds interesting, where can they find you?
Yep, the sovereignproject.live is the website. A whole load of information on there. There will be links to the Sovereign Wiki, where there's a whole load of free remedies people can use for parking tickets and all that sort of stuff, and council tax.
I send people there all the time. They come up and they write to me and they say, Richard, can you tell me what my council DUNS number is? And I say, I haven't a clue, but I know somewhere you can go, and I send them the link.
Yeah, fantastic.
Because you've listed them all on there.
Yep.
And then I've also said to them, I said, you can double check it with Duns and Bradstreet in America if you so wish. Do your own due diligence. And then when you write to the council, tell them that they are listed on there. Just makes them feel a bit uncomfortable.
It does.
And why not? They're asking you for money. You're just telling them, hang on, I'm just reminding myself, who are you again?
That's right. Identify yourself. Who are you? You're just some corporation.
Could be anybody.
Yeah, exactly right. I'm just getting a note through the door, unsigned, no name, just saying I've got to pay you. And I go, why?
Yeah, normally that sort of thing I would go to the police with and said, I've had this. Sounds like someone's trying to get money out of me for no reason.
That's right. I've been extorted for money here.
Especially when it's got a summons written on it and it hasn't come from the actual court.
Yeah, that's a big one, isn't it? When they're saying summon to court and it's not coming from the court. How they're getting away with that? I think the only reason they're getting away with it is because not enough people know the truth yet.
And people have said to me they get these things, and I say to them, isn't it strange? In what world is it that you get a summons from somebody, and in order to go to the court, you have to go to the claimant first to get permission to go to the court? The very person who's taking you to say, is it all right if I actually go to the court? No, you could settle with me first. Yeah, that's not a scam. I would send all of those, if you get any of those, I would send them all to the Attorney General in London, in Petty France, and say, I got this, I think this is a scam. Yes. Because it's not a real court. I don't think this is on court paper. I don't think it's actually issued by the court, and I think this might be a scam. And you, as the Attorney General, you probably want to know this so you can put a stop to it.
Yes, absolutely. When more people do that, comes to an end.
Sovereign Pete, as ever, lovely to talk to you. Thank you for going through all of that with us. We're all trying to understand it. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, do your own due diligence. Don't take our word for it, but read all about it. And as they say, Pete, great to see you again. Looking forward to seeing you at some other event up in the future.
Yep.
But in the meantime, thank you so much. And thank you to you, ladies and gentlemen. Links in the description so you can go through that document and watch the video as well and see what you think of it. And then let Pete know. Until the next time, from myself and from Pete, take care. Bye for now.